Hey y'all, welcome back to Shorebound Farms and another Foodie Friday. We had pulled pork tacos this past week, so I smoked a pork butt on the smoker instead of putting it in the crock pot. Found this recipe online and there are some things I would change later, mainly my own screw ups. But it started out with 3 tablespoons of kosher salt, 2 tablespoons of black pepper, 2 tablespoons of onion powder and garlic powder, 2 tablespoons of paprika, and 2 tablespoons of cumin. This was actually a fairly simple recipe to remember since it was only 3, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. So you mix all your dry ingredients together. That is your dry rub for the pork. And then it also calls for a spritz because you want to spray your pulled pork. After it's smoked for 3 hours, you spray it every hour. So your spray mixture is a cup of apple juice, half a cup of apple cider vinegar, and a half a cup of water. And you get that all ready and mixed up for your pulled pork. And then you take your pulled pork, and if you're like me, you bought one that's pretty big and bigger than what you need for the week. So I cut mine up, and part of it I am using to make sausage since we are out of sausage. And the other part I decided to make pulled pork with. And we still have a ton of pulled pork. So I'll have to save that for another thing. Once you have your pork butt cut to whatever you need to cut to, you're going to slather it in some mustard. This is your binding agent. And then you're going to coat it in your dry rub. Get it nice and coated. You don't want to leave any space uncoated. The smoker is set at 250. I would change this. I would smoke it at 200 for a lot longer. However, I set it for 250 and I wasn't paying attention and left my grate open so that my fire directly hit my pork. So I had a nice burnt crust on one side. That was fun. Yeah. So I cut a lot of that away and prepped it so I could put it back on the grill because it was not ready. It wasn't even ready to cover in foil at that point. So I just laid it on the foil, flipped it over because it had a nice crust building on the other side, and sprayed it with the apple cider vinegar mixture. Put it back on the smoker until it reached like 165 to 170. And at that point, I covered it with the foil. Before I did that, I made sure to spray it again. And I wrapped it really well, put it back on the smoker, let it continue cooking until it reached about 200 degrees at that point. And then once it was done, took it off the smoker and let it rest for a good 30 minutes or so. While it was resting, I decided to make my coleslaw. Now, my coleslaw, I just buy the bag that's already cut up for you. What's wrong? You're okay? She's okay. I buy the bag pre-made, and then I take a cup of mayonnaise and 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard, about a tablespoon or so of vinegar, white vinegar, and sometimes I add lemon juice. In this case, I did add lemon juice. I added about a teaspoon of lemon juice, and then salt and pepper to taste, and about a tablespoon of sugar. Mix this all in. Now, with coleslaw, you can mix it up differently. You can add different seasonings for a different flavor profile, but for this particular pulled pork taco, this is the profile we wanted to go with. And I usually salt and pepper to taste here. So once you mix it in, that's when you're going to want to taste it. Now, I've been making it for a long time, so I know how I usually like it. But you mix it all together, do a test taste, add whatever ingredient you need to, and also let it sit for a while, maybe in the fridge. Just let it sit for an hour or so. Come back and see if you need to change the flavor some. Here we are. The pork is ready to be pulled apart. I had a nice crust on one side and a burnt crust on the other. That was wonderful. I tried using these claws. They weren't working for me. I will say another reason that I would smoke it at 200 degrees for a lot longer is it didn't give the pull texture like it should have. Now, it pulled apart better with my hands than it did with the claws, and in certain parts of the pork, but it did pull apart very easily with the claws. However, I think because of the overcooking on one side because I had my flame open. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I just know that I would do it different. So I was real mad at myself for this. Anyway, I got it pulled apart. I had to actually pull it off of the foil. It was moving around. I needed to pull it off anyway. But it was stuck to the foil where it had actually burned and crisped up. Probably from adding the vinegar, and it kind of just stuck, whatever, binded a little bit. But I managed to get all of the bad stuff pulled off and salvage the rest of the pork. We wound up having a lot of pork. We didn't really lose anything significantly. But once I got it pulled apart, Phoebe even crawled up there. She loved it. She kept going back for it. It turned out really good in my opinion. I still would do a few things differently there though. I did taste test the burnt side just to see if it had any okay flavor to eat. There were some parts of it that actually did taste okay, and then other parts that were just like, okay, this is really burnt. We're just going to get rid of it. But like I said, we had a lot of meat left over. It pulled apart easier on the burnt side, to be honest, which is funny. But you can see Phoebe now. She's up here enjoying herself. She demanded her stool be brought over to the stove so that she could get up there with me and get her a little snack. This is where it didn't pull apart as easily. It wasn't difficult, it just didn't have that pull like pulled pork is supposed to have. But I got our tacos made up. What I did was I cut the barbecue sauce with some apple cider vinegar mixture just to give it a little more tang and make it a little more loose barbecue sauce. And then I put the coleslaw on the side so that Steven could add that to the tacos when he's ready to eat them. This was plated the night before. That way they're not soggy when he goes to eat them. They turned out really good though. I was happy about it. Even though I had my things that I would change, it turned out good. So I would definitely recommend, if you haven't had coleslaw with your pulled pork, you should really change that. That's the only way you should eat it. Here it is, plated up, ready to go. And thanks for joining us, guys. Leave us a like and a comment, and be sure to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We will see you guys later. Bye.